sometimes controversial, always politically incorrect, and pro-life without exception, without compromise, and without apology. It's the Pro-Life America podcast with your hosts, Sarah Waits and the president of Life Dynamics, Mark Crutcher.
Welcome back to the Pro-Life America podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Waits, and I'm joined by my co-host, Sheila Crutcher.
Hi,
Mark's
everyone.
Daughter.
Hi.
And we are joined by Kodak, our doggy co-host, who's in the corner chewing his bone. Mm-hmm. He probably will not have anything to contribute, but just in case, we wanted to give him a little introduction.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure if we gave him the opportunity, he would have something to contribute, but who knows? He is pretty smart, so.
We've got a very interesting topic today about abortion and how it impacts men and women. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about some Texas news because we are proud Texans here.
Well, technically, you were born in Louisiana, so.
So I'm a Texan, but I'm not a Texan, sure.
Anyway, talking about Texas, Lubbock County Commissioner's Court just recently passed an ordinance that bans abortion-inducing drugs, and travel for abortion in the unincorporated areas of Lubbock County. Mm-hmm. And of course, the pro-abortion lobby is up in arms along with Planned Parenthood. And
well, of course.
And they're saying that this violates women's rights, that they're restricting travel of women, which is so ridiculous. No, they're just saying that you're not allowed to use these public roads to go and execute your child.
It's just like the sanctuary cities for the unborn ordinances.
Right.
It basically allows private citizens to sue anyone who provides or aids or abets an abortion after 6 weeks of pregnancy. So, like those ordinances, it's a matter that private citizens can sue on behalf of.
This is coming from Mark Lee Dixon, who, as you mentioned, does the sanctuary cities for the unborn.
And he's been on our podcast before, episode 58, if you haven't gone and listened to it. He's quite the character.
Yes, and then he stated that this ordinance does not interfere with anyone's right to travel. This ordinance prohibits abortion trafficking, which, just like sex trafficking, there are laws against it. Mm-hmm. And so that's what they, based this law on, was the idea of sex trafficking, because abortion is in the league with that.
Where I see this really working and really doing the most effectiveness is areas where, like, say, for example, a minor was taken for an abortion without her parents' knowledge and traveled through the Lubbock County areas, then this could be used by, say, a parent or whoever discovers the abortion afterwards. They could use this to go after the person who transported the daughter. Or, as we've talked about, how some of these states are basically creating abortion tourism, right? And they may try and open up mass transportation to abortion clinics in other areas. Something like this could be used to go after organizations who create those transports.
A big chunk of abortions are illegal in Texas now.
Yeah.
And so,
you're seeing women go to out of state in order to get abortion.
And so you're basically using public roadways to pay to have your child killed, a homicide. So I can see why they came from this angle. It's just trying to put more restrictions in place so less babies are killed.
Well, the big topic for today, as many of you know, whether you're fans or not, Britney Spears is coming out with a memoir called The Woman in Me. And in this book, she announced that she and Justin Timberlake, her then boyfriend at the time, had an abortion.
For people that maybe don't know, Britney Spears was a pop singer in the 90s.
In case you've been living under a rock.
In early 2000s. Well, I mean, people from our generation know Sarah, but other generations. And then Justin Timberlake was one of the singers of the musical pop group NSYNC. And he's gone on to be a successful artist, individual.
Businessman, yeah. Now, I'm not going to get into all the nitty-gritty details of that because I feel like everybody is doing that. But I do want to talk about a couple of interesting things that have popped up out of this that I don't feel like many people are talking about. The first thing is how the media is avoiding like the plague. How Spears admits that she, like countless women before him, had the abortion essentially because of the person she's involved with.
Right.
In the book, it says that she underwent an at-home abortion in order to keep it secret because Timberlake was so sure that he didn't want to be a father. She says, abortion was something I could never have imagined choosing for myself, but given the circumstances, this is what we did. If he didn't want to become a father, I didn't feel like I had much of a choice. I wouldn't want to push him into something he didn't want. Our relationship was too important to me. She is like countless women every year who have abortions for the same reason. And there was a 2013 study in NMC Women's Health Journal about why women have abortions, and it revealed that women usually have several reasons for abortions, but 31% stated partner-related reasons for seeking an abortion. Furthermore, in 2005, Guttmacher,
The research arm of Planned Parenthood.
so if you believe them, they report that a large proportion of women, 48%, cited relationship problems or a desire to avoid single motherhood as the reason for their abortion. In in-depth interviews, the three most frequently stated reasons were the same as in their structured survey: the dramatic impact a baby would have on their lives or the lives of their other children, financial concerns, and their current relationship or fear of single motherhood. They add that, quote, many of these women were disappointed because their partner had reacted to the pregnancy by denying paternity, breaking off communications with them, or saying that they did not want a child. A small number of women stated they were in new relationships and it was too soon to have a child with their partner.
And so this lie that the abortion industry tells about, abortion is about women's empowerment, they celebrate it when it's, quote, a woman's choice, but only if the female wants it.
Yeah.
If the female doesn't want it, but the guy does and she feels pressured or even forced, they remain silent. They try to tiptoe around the issue because that doesn't go with their narrative.
Yeah, it doesn't fit their narrative of empowerment. So with the case of Britney Spears, it says throughout her memoir, she hints that she felt pressured into having an abortion because Timberlake wasn't ready to become a father. Now, we don't know if this was just pressure or if he coerced her or if she just simply felt it was the need to do that. We have no idea. However, we can't discount the number of women who were coerced or forced into having abortions. There was a study by Lozier Institute that was released recently that found over 60% of women who had abortions reported high levels of pressure from one or more sources.
And plus, we need to bring up the fact that these guys that are saying they don't want to be a father yet, they already are a father.
Absolutely.
When a woman is pregnant, she is pregnant with a living human being. They are the parents of that
came
living
from
human
his
being.
sperm that's carrying his genetic material.
So he's a father. He's just saying, I don't want to be a father of a living baby. I don't want to have to take care of and have responsibility for this living human being.
And while we're talking about coercion and force, we have to talk about the thing that the pro-choice side and the feminist movement and the abortion lobby doesn't want anyone talking about or knowing. And that is the women who have been killed because they refuse to abort their child. We have seen time and time again men take matters into their own hands trying to force or coerce women to have abortions. Now, a huge percent of the time this goes under the radar because women don't report it and they give in to the coercion.
Right.
But we have documented in our under the radar report dozens of cases with girls sometimes as young as 15 years old who were killed because they said no. They refused to have an abortion.
And that report can be found on our website at lifedynamics.com. And that report is only a small drop in the bucket. That's
Absolutely.
That's not the women that were injured. Those were females that were simply killed. And that's just a small drop. There's a lot more, and it's happening over and over again. And you sometimes hear about it in the news, and other times don't hear about it at all because the media doesn't want to cover it.
Yeah, they will bury it. The other thing they don't want to talk about are the women who have been secretly drugged with abortion pills by the person that they're involved with.
And that's becoming an even bigger issue when you have more usage of abortion pills, and now places where you can get it over the counter, and vending machines at college
Through the mail.
campuses, and so this is becoming even bigger an issue.
Yeah, as we've seen, they are loosening the restrictions for these abortion-inducing drugs, and so you can naturally expect an uptick of these kind of things happening because it's less of a hurdle to get these drugs. And there was an interesting thing that I just stumbled on just the other day. Now, this is a story that's gone kind of viral through China's social media, so it's not an official news story, but there's a woman who is claiming that her boyfriend drugged her and caused her to have an abortion.
He's a doctor in China, and he didn't want to be a father.
It says that when she told him that she was pregnant, he was definitely not happy, that he told her he did not want marriage or children and tried to persuade her to have an abortion, and she refused. It seems like he then tried to slip in her abortion drug that actually didn't work or didn't take, and he tried again by having dinner with her apartment and slipping her a sedative, and then when she came to, gave her something else to drink that had the abortion drugs in it. And so it took her a while to report him to the police because he apologized and asked her to marry him and all this stuff until she found out he was lying. But according to the stuff that I've read, it says an investigation is ongoing.
Well, coming from China, nothing's going to happen.
But when you're talking about stuff from China, we have no way of really knowing.
Yeah, and plus the Chinese government is so pro-abortion that nothing is going to come out of this.
Going back to the Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake thing, I think the thing that's interesting about this is that what the media is instead focusing on is the reality that men benefit from abortion. And of course, this is something that we have seen and we know to be true. And the fact is that while women argue that abortion benefits women too, the reality is that they endure all the risk, while the man gets very little risk and all benefit to legalized abortion.
Well, if you can call having a dead baby.
Yes, absolutely.
A benefit, but in terms of economics and responsibility, this is just a way for men to chunk their responsibility out the door because they don't want to be responsible.
Well, the original feminists knew and even wrote about the fact that legalized abortion would create an environment that allows men to use women for sex and then use abortion as a bailout of any responsibility towards that child or the woman.
And I mean, people get up in arms about men not paying child support and to chuck that responsibility. But they don't get up in arms for them using abortion to chuck their responsibility, which is a complete double standard and hypocritical. It's ridiculous. But that's because, according to society, abortion is legitimate. It's acceptable. And
we had a podcast topic on this show where we talked about the concept that some people are putting out there of financial abortions, right? Because you have a man and a woman who are in a relationship, and they have this plan that if the woman gets pregnant, she'll have an abortion.
Right.
Now, if they have this agreement that there's not going to be any child, and she decides that she wants to keep it, and then she comes back and says, hey, you have to pay for this.
Right.
He has no rights to bail out of the financial responsibility, right? But she can choose to bail out of the life anytime she wants. It's inequality. And so some people are proposing the idea of financial abortions. If you're interested in that, I will put the link in the description where we really do a dive into that.
Right.
But the interesting thing about all of this is these tone-deaf articles written by pro-choice media gurus are asking the question, where are all of our pro-choice men?
Yeah.
In The Independent, they wrote, when men are reluctant to share their own experiences with abortion, it reinforces the long-held belief that speaking up about access to abortion or reproductive rights is solely a women's issue. Timberlake and men everywhere do have a place in advocating for reproductive rights because if men could get pregnant, then abortion would be free. How many times have we heard that, right? If men could get pregnant, X, Y, Z.
Right.
And I think it's so funny. They say it's this long-held belief that it's solely a woman's issue. Well, isn't that what the abortion lobby has told men for the last 40, 50 years?
Right. But then they say, where are the men, speaking up for this? But at the same time, they say, keep your rosaries off my ovaries. It's a woman's decision. These people can't make up their minds.
No, they can't. And my favorite quote from this is from Glamour magazine, the hard-hitting Glamour magazine. And it says, there is a societal expectation born out of patriarchy that makes abortion a women's issue. This, on its very basic level, is simply not true because abortion is a part of life for all people. Despite benefiting from abortions, you rarely see men standing up for abortion rights. It's more common to see the opposite, where they are actively stripping them from us.
The author said abortion is a right for all people. Tell that to the unborn who are being killed by the so-called right.
My favorite bit is that abortion being a woman's issue is born out of patriarchy. Like I say, these people want everyone to forget that for the last 40, 50 years, the feminist movement has been screaming that abortion is a woman's issue. No uterus, no opinion. Keep your rosaries off our ovaries.
Right.
The PR that it's a women's rights issue has worked. And the funny thing is when Glamour magazine talks about more often than not, you see men trying to stand up for the unborn, not for abortion. I think it has to do with the fact that unlike the pro-choice movement, the pro-life movement has said, we don't care what gender you are, because we see this as a human rights issue, right?
Everyone has an obligation.
Absolutely. It's not about gender, it's about human rights. And so we've been very welcoming to men over the last 40, 50 years, despite the fact that even today, if you look around, the pro-life movement is overwhelmingly female.
Right.
But the pro-choice movement has basically said, no uterus, no opinion.
Right.
However, if you want to be a clinic escort, or if you want to be a pro-choice politician who signs into law the things that we want, we'll accept that.
Right.
But anything else, you just sit down over here.
Yeah, you can do this, but otherwise just sit down and be quiet.
So how can they be surprised when more often than not they see men who are involved in the abortion battle and they're on the side of pro-life? When you tell men that we don't want to hear your opinion, you're only going to get the dissenters.
Right.
So overall, the pro-life movement, I think, has been a lot more welcoming of men than the feminist movement has. And I don't know, honestly, where the polls break down. I've seen some say that men are more pro-choice. I've seen some say that men are pro-life. I'm not exactly sure which one, but I will tell you, it makes sense if there are more men who are pro-choice because, like I say, they benefit the most without having any risk.
And they don't have to stand up for it. They can just sit over there in the corner and
quietly let everything take its course.
And let the abortion lobby and the female abortion advocates do all the talking. Meanwhile, they can just sit there twiddling their thumbs,
reaping the benefits,
so-called benefits. Exactly. Which goes perfectly into this episode's From the Mouth of Mark, which was from a blog post that he wrote in 2008. And he said, the reality is the most numerous proponents of legalized abortion are men. Of course, that it makes perfect sense given that men are the ones who most profit from it. That is why, with almost no exceptions, pioneers of the women's movement like Susan B. Anthony, Maddie Brinkerhoff, Sarah Norton, Emma Goldman, and Elizabeth Cady Stanton were outspoken opponents of legalized abortion. These early feminists saw that abortion is patronizing and paternalistic and that it doesn't free women, it devalues them. They understood that as a practical matter, legalized abortion is nothing more than a safety net for sexually predatory and sexually irresponsible men. And if the last 35 years have proven nothing else, they have proven that these women hit the nail on the head. It is now clear that the legalization of abortion and the willingness of women to submit to it are the two greatest gifts these kind of men have ever received.
Very well said.
And I think that perfectly sums it up.
So if you think we're crazy, or if you think we're absolutely right and hit the nail on the head, we encourage you to go to the podcast page on our website and leave a comment. I have also started, for those of you who listen to the podcast on Spotify, to create a poll question each week so you guys have something that you can kind of interact with us on. And we'd love to hear your feedback, love to hear your thoughts. And
preferably not to hear that we're crazy, but...
Well, I love to hear that Sheila's crazy. I mean, if you've got some of those, go ahead and drop them in. But anyway, we love to hear from you guys and hear your feedback. And also, if you have a show suggestion, something you think that we need to cover, you can go to lifedynamics.com/podcast. There's a form right there on the page. and it goes straight to our inbox. And again, we love hearing from you guys.
Exactly. And until next time, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight.
We're here to win.
Because winning is how the killing stops.
We will see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.